Jewish identity, Jewish leadership, children, students.
Wait, you're going too fast. Hold your horses.
Sorry.
And action.
Europe is spread out across 9,908,000 square kilometers. It is inhabited by 730 million people and is the third largest continent by population. 3 million Jews live in Europe. Europe has a deep legacy. Great Jewish leaders were born and bred here, generation upon generation of bustling Jewish life. But equally and sadly, a great deal of Jewish blood was spilled here. Where do we even begin to pick up the pieces? How do we strengthen Jewish identity in the millions who were taught to hide their faith so as not to stand out? How do we combat anti-Semitism that is on the rise year after year in Europe? The European Jewish Association, through a wide umbrella of organizations and partnerships, is growing in strength at the heart of our communities throughout Europe, never resting in their resolve to address and solve these challenges. Shall we begin?
I think this is something that we have been seeing for some time, that anti-Semitism is no longer confined only to the fringes, but that you see it more in the center of society.
Fighting anti-Semitism, public campaigns, regular meetings with government officials at all levels in Europe to raise awareness of the state of anti-Semitism and the importance of religious freedom.
In the first 6 months of this year, we've seen the second largest number of violent anti-Semitic attacks in the UK. So that's the second largest number. The highest was the first 6 months of last year.
What begins with words, incitement and propaganda ends with attacks against Jews.
Professional training for activists and representatives of Jewish communities on how to help with our diplomatic and political challenges.
The level of anti-Semitism all over Europe is breaking its own records.
BDS movement is the biggest anti-Semitic movement around the world, responsible for attacking thousands of Jews in Europe, almost in each country in Europe, on a daily basis.
Promoting legislation that will require European governments to incorporate the subject of anti-Semitism, the Holocaust, and Jewish contributions to Europe in school textbooks of all ages. Holding events for government officials, screening films about the Holocaust, and discussing what can be learned from the past for the future.
What kind of people look to buy personal belongings of Adolf Hitler and others, if not because of those people are their inspiration?
Organizing delegations of MPs and ministers to Auschwitz to raise awareness of the Holocaust. The erection of memorial stones on mass graves where thousands of Jews were murdered and so far have not received the honor they deserve. Holding hundreds of events for young Jews throughout Europe, bringing dozens of groups of bar and bat mitzvah children from across Europe to Israel, organizing fascinating lectures in various fields across Europe, organizing female leadership events, distributing hundreds of thousands of sets of menorahs, food gifts, mishloach manot, matzahs, and the 4 species. Organizing seminars and professional courses for rabbis and Jewish community leaders. Plus, in the coming year, establishing 20 branches of medical equipment loan centers for those in need. And that's not all. After decades of Israel suffering from a negative image that led to the rise of anti-Semitism, which caused thousands of Jews to hide their identity, we said enough. We acted. Europe-Israel Press Association. It has brought hundreds of senior journalists to Israel and held briefings for dozens of other journalists throughout Europe. We have had the privilege of having thousands of articles published that portray Israel in an objective and unbiased manner. The EJA works in Europe and throughout the world to providing help and acting responsibly and decisively for our future generations. EJA, proud to be the Jewish voice in Europe.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage the chairman of the European Jewish Association, my boss, mentor, and a man who I admire hugely and without reservation. Rabbi Margolin, the floor is yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. President Reagan of the United States visited once a prison and started his talk for the prisoners by saying, "I am glad you are here." Well, I'm not so sure it is a great beginning for a speech for prisoners, but I am definitely glad you are all here today. Originally, I planned to continue and speak today about anti-Semitism, about the horrible situation in Europe and what else can be done. But I feel that I am obliged to speak with you today about the greatest problem of the Jewish people in Europe. But just before, I will take your attention in order to speak about two projects that we would like to launch here today, who does deal with safety and anti-Semitism, and then we will speak about the other project. Too many anti-Semitic incidents are not reported to the authorities on time because of lack of interest, because people feel that it won't change anything. As of today, reporting will be easier than ever. We are launching today a hotline, WhatsApp line, where people will be able to share information, pictures, videos, and all information they could have in order for us not only to monitor and collect this information, but also to approach the authorities and make sure that those things will be taken care of. The second project we would like to launch today is for Jewish communities who do not have the means to have full guard, full-time job in their communities. And therefore, we intend to propose today a security center where people will be able from a central place to watch cameras of Jewish communities from across the continent, those who do not have the possibility to have a full-time guard, in order to increase the safety and security of people that come to synagogues with concern. But I am done speaking about anti-Semitism and security. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to speak with you today about what I feel, and I'm sure you all feel, is the greatest problem of the Jewish community in Europe. I would like to speak about the 50% of Jewish people in Europe who do not live Jewish life. The 50% of Jewish people who are not associated with any Jewish communities. I would like to speak not about the children who have to come to schools that look like prison, but about the 70% of Jewish children who does not go to any Jewish schools. I would like to speak about 80% of Jewish people in Europe that do not come to visit synagogues, even not on Yom Kippur. The Jewish people that exploded from Spain, from Portugal, from England. We were kicked out from France, from Italy, from Austria, from Lithuania, from many countries throughout the generation. Nations that millions of its people were murdered. Nations that 30% of its people just murdered 75 years ago. And nations that until today, its homeland is under risks. And the life in the diaspora are not so easy in the light of anti-Semitism. And yet, we are the same nations that brought the Bible, the Talmud, the great values, universal values, a great contribution to the humanity in medicine and in economy and in culture and agriculture, in technology and even sense of humor. Dear friends, today we have to come out of this meeting with a strong resolution to work not only to defend those who come to the Jewish community, but to go for outreach to any Jewish people that as of today are not part of the Jewish communities. Let's continue to organize conferences, events, activities for youth, activities for students, concerts. Let's bring those people back home. There is a story about a famous rabbi by name Simcha Bunim who was appointed to be the rabbi of a village called Pshischa. After he was appointed, rumors started to go around that once this rabbi was found in a casino playing cards with a very famous criminal. And a delegation came to the rabbi and says, "Rabbi, do you think it is appropriate that you will be serving as a rabbi of the village?" And the rabbi responded, "I remember very well this story. I remember very well that evening, meeting this young man and seeing the passion he had to go and do something very inappropriate. And I was using all my effort to try to keep him with me. I couldn't. He had so much passion, enthusiasm to go to do something very not well. Until I remembered that he liked to play cards. So I offered him, let's play cards, and we played all the night. Until I made sure that he does not have the passion anymore to go and do negative things." Ladies and gentlemen, we do have to take example from this rabbi who did not have any problem to go to inappropriate place, to do inappropriate thing for a rabbi in order to avoid another person from doing something negative. I know sometimes, and especially in today's world, where people do only what give them back honor and respect and positive feedback. I want to share with you another story about a rabbi by name Zusha from Anipoli. He was a very poor person. He visited once his rabbi. And he told the rabbi that he needs to marry his daughter, but he does not have the means. And his rabbi gave him 500 zlotys, in order to take care of the wedding. The rabbi went back to his city, but on its way, he started in a Jewish community. And he heard people upset, people concerned, people sad. He asked them, "What happens?" And they said, "There is a widow in this community that needs to marry your daughter. She did not have the means, and the entire village was working hard to collect the funding for her. Today, she just found out that she lost her money. And we all very much disappointed and sad for the widow and for her daughter." Rabbi Zusha did not think twice. He took out the 500 zlotys that he just got from his rabbi to marry his own daughter, and he gave it to the family. And he said, "I found the money." They started to be so happy, so excited. "Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being such a righteous person." And he said, "Well, 1 minute, but I want to keep 100 zlotys for me as a commission. I need to be paid for the mitzvah, for the great commandments I have just made." They looked at him and said, "Are you crazy? You found 500 zlotys of a widow. Of course, it's very nice that you came to give it back, but you want to keep 100 for yourself?" He said, "Yes, that's what I want." They said, "No way." They took the money from him and they kicked him out of the community. His rabbi visited that village just a few days later. And he heard this story. And then he met his student and he says, "My dear Zusha, when I heard that you gave these 500 zlotys that I gave to you to marry your daughter, when I heard that you gave it to the widow, I was not surprised. But what was the idea for you to try to keep 100 zlotys for yourself?" And Rabbi Zusha responded. He said, "Rabbi, when I told them that I found the money, everyone, of course, appreciated me very much. And then I started to feel my ego. I started to feel so positive about what I just did. And I started to feel so well. And I decided I will not be doing things for ego. And I decided to do something outstanding to make sure that no respect and no honor I will be getting for doing something positive." Ladies and gentlemen, not always doing good things will give us back honor and respect. Not always people will appreciate it. Many times we will need to fight for the right things. But this is my message to all of you. In this building, we intend just in 3 weeks from now to host a conference for 250 rabbis from across Europe. In just a couple of months from now, we intend to host in that building hundreds of students from across Europe. Because this building is an example that even today, despite the challenges, despite the difficulties, nothing can kill the Jewish spirit. There is no darkness. There is no darkness that can stand against light. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, let's go together for a journey. Let's make sure that next time when we will gather, we will be speaking not about the 50% of Jews who are not part of the communities, but we should be speaking about 40% of Jews. And year after year, until we'll be able to say proudly that everyone coming back home to our roots. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. And with that, I'm going to say bon appétit, enjoy your first course, and I will be back to you after your first course. Bon appétit, enjoy the meal.